giving the Democrat view on abortion.
When a woman gets pregnant, that is not a human being inside of her. It's part of her body.
I've heard a lot. You heard her. It's not a human being. What is it then? A fish? What is it? A pineapple?
The Joe Walsh radio program. Weeknights at 9, right after Larry Elder at 7 on AM 1250. The Answer.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if you're from the greatest generation, I'm sorry, and I'm apologizing on behalf of my generation. That would be the worst generation, the baby boomers. As I watched the videos of the actual D-Day invasion the last couple of days and then heard from the old guys who were on those ships and in those planes, as usual, I was stunned by what they were able to do as 18 or 20-year-old guys. And I started thinking about what I was doing when I was that age. My friends and I, all baby boomers, were in college, and it was my generation that gave birth to what you see in a lot of the Democrat Party today. If not a hatred for America, at least a blame America first attitude. It was all about the Vietnam War back then, which doesn't look like it was a very good idea right now. But the last couple of days after watching the 90-something guys from D-Day, I started thinking what it must have been like for them, my dad's generation, to see people burning the flag, demonstrating against the country, and calling the guys from my generation who did fight in Vietnam baby killers when they came back. And that was when we first heard the term generation gap. But those guys were in their late 40s back then and only 25 years removed from coming back from World War II. Regardless of whether the war in Vietnam was justified, it's easy to understand the hatred those guys might have had for all those hippies running around trying to tear the country apart back then. My generation produced Bill and Hillary Clinton and John Kerry. All three ran for president. Bill wrote a letter to the head of the draft board in Little Rock and said he loathed the military. Kerry came back from Vietnam and accused the guys he served with of cutting off people's ears, and he threw his medals over a fence at the White House during a demonstration. Guess what? All three ended up running for president. And people like, I don't know, Bill Ayers, the terrorist who was Barack Obama's mentor, he's a baby boomer. And you know what my generation gave you? Well, it gave you some good stuff, but it gave you sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Still dealing with that today. And the Clintons, that's what we gave you, the baby boomers. Sorry for that, too. The greatest generation gave you the guys you saw all over TV the last couple of days. All I can say again is sorry. We're talking to Rocky Blyer. He's involved with the Miracle League of Moon Township and the construction of a Miracle League athletic field. The fields are designed to make it possible for kids with special needs to play sports.
Every child, no matter what the situation, deserves a chance to be able to play, to compete, and have a place that's safe, takes care of needs, that's organized. This will be the fourth Miracle League field that will be built. Now we got 4 places to be able to travel, so it broadens the whole interest of sports. It's just terrific for a community to do that.
There's a buddy system I thought was pretty impressive. What's that all about?
Kids with special needs have a buddy, a child who's in school. It's like having an older brother or sister involved with you. So it's really good, and that everybody has human dignity of being able to participate.
The website is miraclesinmoon.org. Check it out, and let's help make this dream a reality. Hey, Rocky, thanks, and we'll be talking to you again about this project. Appreciate you coming on to talk about it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Thanks.
Rocky Blyer, and we'll be right back.
Are you about to pay double for roof replacement or repair? If you haven't called Windows R Us, you just might. Many companies are overcharging area homes and businesses nearly double. With over 50 years in home remodeling, Windows R Us is more than a window company. They're the area's premier exterior replacement company for siding, doors, gutters, downspouts, and roof replacement and repair. Factory certified by North America's largest roof manufacturer, Windows R Us will never overcharge. You'll love their no-pressure sales approach, straightforward pricing, and the fastest turnaround in the business. Right now, get 0 interest for 12 months on up to $20,000. Windows R Us will match any competitor's price. No hidden fees or surprises ever. Schedule a free roof inspection today. Mention AM 1250 for an exclusive 10% off. Why pay double? Visit the area's premier exterior replacement company. Windows R Us, more than a window company. Visit windowsrspittsburgh.com.
Obamacare, Trump Care, ACA, COBRA. There are so many choices, but all seem to bring one word to mind: expensive. There are lots of changes happening in healthcare today. Fortunately, I know someone that has been on the forefront of health insurance for years: Todd Marley at Marley Financial. Todd and his team of professionals are licensed with virtually every health provider in the country. They help determine which plan is right for you and then expertly help you choose the best plan for your needs and then do so prudently. Don't need maternity coverage? Call Marley Financial. Have pre-existing conditions? Call Marley Financial. Want just catastrophic or just accident? You know the answer. Worried about the penalty? All of Marley Financial plans are penalty exempt because they know how to design the plans. Most of their clients save 30 to 60%, which can add up to several $1,000s a year. Call Todd at Marley Financial, 724-884-1496. That's 724-884-1496 on the web at marleyfg.com.
Are you overwhelmed, unable to think clearly or sleep well at night? Or just trudging through each day, but not really enjoying your life? I'm a counselor with Faithful Counseling, and that feeling of distress can sometimes be because you're wrestling with a problem that seems too big or too impossible to overcome. Other times, people are consumed by a past hurt. I'm part of a network of Christian counselors, fellow believers, trusted therapists who share your faith. We want to give you a free week so you can try us out. You can begin a conversation with one of us by text or phone, even video conferencing today. Are you ready to shake this off and begin enjoying your life? If it's not for you, cancel during your first week and you'll not pay a dime. Go to tryfaithfulcounseling.com. It's time to talk to someone who can help. Go now to tryfaithfulcounseling.com. It's so easy to get started and your first week is free. Go now to tryfaithfulcounseling.com.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer.
Well, maybe you've noticed that we have a problem in our country with people who aren't citizens living here and, getting benefits that should only be going to citizens. And there's some evidence that people who aren't citizens are actually voting. The Trump administration would like to make that a question on the next census. Are you a citizen? Seems like a reasonable request. The Democrats want documents that the Trump administration and the Attorney General, William Barr, don't want to give them. So it's looking like the House is going to hold Barr in contempt. Hans von Spakovsky is a legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation and a former member of the Federal Election Committee. He joins us now. Hans, thanks for being here.
Sure, thanks for having me back.
So I guess just let's start with where are we on Mr. Barr and the Democrats threatening to hold him in contempt?
Well, they are threatening to do that, and it's all over the fact that they're complaining that he hasn't given them everything they want in regard to the litigation that's going on over adding a citizenship question to the U.S. Census. It's really... Look, this is just political theater. It's not based on anything real, and the reason I say that is that the Justice Department's already given them, if you can believe this, 17,000 pages of documents, and they've twice been given the right to question one of the Justice Department lawyers who was involved in this, a guy named John Gore. And you know what the reason they're mad and why they want contempt? They want to question John Gore a third time, but they've said you can't bring your Justice Department lawyer with you. And they also are saying we want the actual legal and internal legal analysis that you guys did on the merits of this lawsuit, even though a federal court has already said, look, that's an attorney work product. It's privileged. You don't have to produce it.
And so this is separate from the Democrats wanting Barr to testify about the Russia collusion.
Exactly.
But is it all just is it all really tied together, but just kind of disguised as two separate things? Well,
it is, but it isn't. What's going on here is that this is an attempt to sabotage and derail the citizenship question issue, because that case, an ongoing case, it's currently before the U.S. Supreme Court. And we're waiting for an a decision to come down from the court. And folks on the left are terrified that the court's going to come back and say, no, there's not a problem asking a citizenship question. So they are trying to expose the Justice Department's internal legal analysis. They want to get turned over to the challengers in that lawsuit because they're hoping they'll find something in there that they can use to derail this case with the Supreme Court.
Well, I go to Canada a lot. When I come across the border coming back home, the first word out of the customs officer's mouth, he says one word. He says, citizenship?
Yeah.
I mean, why is this a big deal?
Well, because the left doesn't want actually accurate numbers about the number of non-citizens in the country. I mean, look, think about what's happening and what's been happening for the last decade. We've been engaged in this very vigorous debate and fight over immigration policy in this country. And I think the left is afraid that if people find out how many non-citizens there really are in this country, the official estimates are 11 to 12 illegal aliens. A lot of people put it at more than twice that. And I think they just don't want that kind of accurate information to get into the public realm.
And at what point, you've been around for a while, at what point did it become, it seemed to become such a positive thing for the Democrats to get as many people who aren't citizens into the country and receiving government benefits and possibly voting illegally? Is this a relatively new thing for them?
Yeah, that's something they've really been working on for the past decade. I'll tell you the other big reason they don't want this information to get out there, and it's this. Look, a lot of statisticians have actually looked at this and said, like when it comes to political districts, like congressional districts, the higher the number of citizens in a district, the greater the chances it'll vote for a Republican. The higher the number of non-citizens in a district, the greater the chances it will vote for a Democrat. And what state legislators have always done is they've used total population when drawing the boundaries of new legislative districts. Well, if the census actually can collect accurate data on non-citizens all around the country, then state legislators would have the ability to use citizen population to draw up new congressional districts. And again, Democrats don't want this because they think it will cause them to lose seats in Congress. It'll cause them to lose seats in state legislatures if state legislatures start using citizen population instead of total population. Although, to me, that's the fairest way to draw up political lines.
Have they has disclosing citizenship ever not been or was it ever a requirement? And it changed it, and now they want it back?
Yeah, the first time that a citizenship question that was asked on the U.S. Census was in 1820.
Yeah.
It was consistently asked up through 1950. You may recall, John, 1950 census, where they switched to two forms, the short form and what they called the long form. The long form went out to about 1 in 6 households. It asked a citizenship question. A citizenship question was asked on the long form in the 2000 census, which wasn't that long ago. After that, census switched back to a short form without a citizenship question, but they also started sending out this second survey, something they send out every year called the American Community Survey, which is this very long survey. It has a citizenship question on it.
Yeah. Well, it just doesn't seem like it should be that big of a deal.
It isn't.
There's other things in the census survey that you could find more invasive than that. I mean,
look, a lot of people resent being asked what their race or ethnic background is, and yet I mean, if you can believe this, the challengers in the case before the Supreme Court are claiming it's unconstitutional, if you can believe that, to ask a citizenship question on the census, which is that's just absurd.
What are they basing that on? How are they claiming it to be unconstitutional?
They're claiming it's unconstitutional because somehow people will be too scared to answer and the question and complete the census and send it back, and so we won't get an accurate census.
Because they're afraid somebody will show up at their house and deport them?
Yeah, and that can't happen because it's been federal law for a very long time that the responses to the census are confidential. The Census Bureau can't give information on any particular individual they collect to any other federal agency. All they can do is kind of, general summaries, this percentage of Americans live here and this percentage of Americans are black or white. But they cannot say to the Department of Homeland Security, you need to go look at this particular guy because when he answered his citizenship question, he said this. They're banned from doing that.
Wow. We're talking to Hans von Spakovsky. He's a legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Hans, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a little bit about what's going on with the IG report. You know about all this stuff, and I'm just wondering, that's the Inspector General, and we keep hearing that his report is coming out any day now, and when it does, people's heads are going to explode. Are we in any danger of overinflating the importance of this or raising the expectations too high, or do you think when it comes out it is really going to be that explosive?
Well, it depends on what he finds and whether he did what he was supposed to do. What the IG was looking at was the start of the Russian election collusion investigation when the FBI, because remember what started it all was the FBI going to the secret FISA court. That's the secret court in Washington that approves electronic surveillance warrants in the espionage, counterintelligence area. Remember, FBI went to them using the Steele dossier, the political opposition research paid for by Hillary Clinton. They used that to apply for a warrant, and they started eavesdropping on the Trump campaign, or spying, as some people would call it. And there's been a lot of claims that they did not have evidence sufficient to justify applying for a warrant, and that if the only thing they had was the Steele dossier, then the FBI abused its authority. Why? Because all the information in there was unverified, and that is what the IG is supposed to be looking at.
Well, he's been looking at it for a long time. I mean, how long should it take to figure that out? That dossier, well, I'm tired of hearing about it. I've heard about it so much.
I agree. I actually think this could have been done a lot faster. But I have no idea what's in it. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Well, does the release of that report help Barr, the Attorney General Barr, with the investigation that he is apparently doing? I mean, when that's finally released, is that?
Yes, it will help him. And the way to, some people might say, well, why is this separate U.S. Attorney, John Dunham, why is he investigating this when the IG is investigating? And the reason is this. The only thing the Inspector General of the Justice Department can do is issue a report. He can recommend that individuals be prosecuted because he believes they've done something wrong, but he can't prosecute anybody. Only other prosecutors inside the Justice Department can do that. So if the IG comes out with a report that recommends prosecution, for example, of the FBI agents who were involved, that information will help the investigation that Barr has ordered as prosecutors decide whether to go ahead and do that, prosecute people who were involved in this.
Do you know William Barr?
I do not know him, although I know his reputation, and I mean, before the Democrats started attacking him, he was known as one of the most qualified, experienced, and professional former DOJ lawyers in Washington.
Looks like I don't know him either, obviously, but he seems to me like he's kind of a bulldog that I wouldn't want to be trying to push around. Just from his demeanor, anyway.
Yeah, no, I think he's a good guy, and a lot of the stuff that's being said about him is just totally unfair.
So you wrote a piece. We're talking to Hans von Spakovsky at the Heritage Foundation. You also wrote a piece at Heritage about millennials and whether they could do what the Greatest Generation did in World War II. Did you conclude that we would be in trouble if we ever had a situation where we needed a massive force and had to maybe draft people?
Well, I left it an open question. I guess I have my doubts that they could meet the challenges. On the other hand, we do know there are millennials out there who currently are volunteers, in our military forces and have shown what they're capable of, and we have millennials currently who are in our law enforcement agencies have shown that. But you got to have doubts about the students who take advantage of and go into those special rooms that these universities have established with pillows and stuffed animals when somebody says something that
a mean conservative shows up on campus. Yeah. Well, I know
I can't see a person like that storming the beaches at Normandy.
Well, you know what though, my baby boomer friends and I have talked about that. I mean, my dad is from the Greatest Generation. I consider the baby boomer the worst generation, and we've talked about that and what we would have done when we were 19, 18 years old. And been put on those ships headed over to Normandy, and we all agreed that we probably would have wet our pants. But maybe it's a case of you don't know till they put you there. You find out.
Well, look, I agree with that, and I just that article was generated by the fact that given the way our culture and society is, and the way it's teaching and training millennials, it really makes me doubt that they could have met the same challenges that the Depression era people who were their same age, the way they met the requirements of World War II.
Yeah, but I wonder how many. I think that's why they call them the Greatest Generation. I don't know if. I don't know. Maybe that generation, for some reason, was more prepared than any generation before or after, just because of the environment that existed at the time.
Well, that could be, and that's another reason why millennials might not be able to meet that challenge if we are involved in the future in a major war. And anybody who thinks that there's no possibility of that happening is not a student of history.
Yeah, I watched that stuff yesterday. That the 97-year-old guy jumping out of the plane. Did you see that? He reenacted his jumping when he was like 19. And another guy, he was 93 years old, and he sounded like he was about 50. And he was talking about being 18 years old, and he weighed 112 pounds. And he was, floating over there headed for Normandy. It's amazing to me that those guys were able to do that. Well, I hope we don't need to call on any generation to have to do that again. But I kind of agree with you about the current one. I don't know if I want to be around waiting for them to defend me. That's just me.
Yeah, well, I have the same doubts.
All right, hey Hans, I appreciate you being here.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks a lot. That's Hans von Spakovsky. We'll be right back.
With SRN News, I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. President Trump now says there's a good chance the United States will strike a deal with Mexico to stop tariffs from taking place next week. Tweeting aboard Air Force One, he says if there's a deal, Mexico will begin purchasing farm and agricultural products at very high levels starting immediately. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett says talks with Mexico are progressing, but the president has the final say.
But whether they've done enough to satisfy the president, who knows this issue better than anybody, is something that we'll find out.
A top University of Alabama donor says the school is punishing him after he called for a university boycott in response to the state's new abortion ban. The university's Board of Trustees voted today to return a gift of more than $26 million. Stocks up sharply, up more than 1%. This is SRN News.
When it comes to your pain, many of you might be skeptical, like I was, about ordering Relief Factor. Pat Boone again for this wonderful 100% drug-free supplement designed to help your own body lower or eliminate occasional aches and pains due to aging, exercise, everyday living. I'm not skeptical any longer. The 3-week quick start is now discounted to only $19.95. Why don't you let us see if we can get you out of pain, too, at ReliefFactor.com.
Blue Star medicated ointment gets 5-star reviews from our loyal users for fast relief of the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
Blue Star soothes insect bites and fungal infections.
It really works on the summer rashes I get every year.
I had psoriasis on my elbows. Blue Star worked wonders.
Amazing stuff. Smear a bit on and the itch is gone.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Dennis Prager explains the downfall of our society.
Secularism produces knowledge, but not wisdom. Any secular people probably were raised religious, because the longer one is devoid of God and religion, the longer the generation span, the more foolish the human being becomes in virtually every instance.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at noon, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 1250. The Answer.
This is Chris Abernethy of Abernethy and Hagerman. You don't want the government deciding what happens to your estate or how much they will take. At Abernethy and Hagerman, estate administration is the heart and soul of our practice. We have the experience to help not only plan, but administer your estate properly, to protect your assets, minimize taxes, and ensure that your inheritance gets to the ones you love. Decide for yourself. Abernethy and Hagerman. Legal help that lasts a lifetime. Visit a-h.law.
Hunt & Associates is your resource for examining the important financial aspects for your retirement plan. Listen to our podcast radio show, Hunt for Retirement, by visiting gwhunt.com. On this week's edition of Hunt for Retirement, we discuss securing lifetime income. Text HUNT to 555-888 or visit gwhunt.com to listen to the podcast now, or call 844-366-HUNT for a free copy of the book, Income Allocation, and a free retirement income report.
Right now, save $500 off a beautiful new Pella entry door. We have hundreds of entry door options to transform your home, create exceptional curb appeal, and add lasting value. An array of glass patterns, from traditional to contemporary, can give you just the right amount of light and privacy you need. And Pella's exclusive Advantage Plus system protects your investment from damaging weather. Get $500 off right now, or 48 months no interest. Call 888-78-PELLA or PellaPittsburgh.com.
Fully transparent and here to help. Qualities like these make the Original Mattress Factory unique. Come see where and how we make our mattresses and compare our products to the mainstream brands. We want to help you make an informed decision, free from hassle and confusion. So when you're ready to purchase your next mattress, come to the Original Mattress Factory first. Whether you buy from us or not, you'll walk away better prepared to make a smart mattress choice. Stop by one of our stores or visit originalmattress.com.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
Seeing some improvement on the highways, but we do continue to have some rush hour volume. Parkway West is heavy inbound, 79 down to the Fort Pitt Tunnel and outbound Banksville Road 260. On the Parkway East, you're slowing down outbound approaching Boulevard of the Allies to Edgewood Swissvale, and some delays inbound Forest Hills to the Squirrel Hill Tunnel, Forbes Avenue to the Fort Pitt Bridge. Outbound Parkway North is busy, Mount Nebo Road overpass up to 79. That's a look at traffic. Jenny Robinson.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
Partly cloudy tonight with a low of 60 degrees. Tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Pleasantly warm with a high tomorrow right around 80. Partly cloudy tomorrow night, low 63. Then for Sunday, turning out to be mostly cloudy and breezy. A shower or two will be around, especially during the afternoon hours. High Sunday, 75. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Danielle Niddle.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
And now, it's time for the Jerk of the Week, starring John Steigerwald.
Yeah, we had some good candidates this week. I could have gone with Bernie Sanders for saying that anybody who questions his finances is anti-Semitic, or the idiot professor in British Columbia who talked about the evils of dodgeball. But I'm going with the mayor of Baltimore, Bernard C. Jack Young. After a teenager was killed and 4 others were injured in shootings down there, he came out with at a rally and said, you know, if they really want to settle them, we can have them down at the, talking about beefs, if they really want to settle them, we can have them down at the Civic Center and put up a boxing ring, let them go and box it out, those kind of things. May the best man win and the beef should be over. Those are some kinds of things I'm thinking about and hoping that we can get these people to put these guns down. You know, the only problem with that, Mayor, is that, you know what else ends a beef? Shooting somebody and killing them. The beef's over. That's not the point. How about not having the beefs in the first place? Anyway, it was I'm sure he means well, probably a nice guy. That might have worked in 1962. It ain't going to work now. So, sorry. Nice try, Mayor Jack Young, but you are the Beef Jerky Outlet Jerk of the Week.
The Jerk of the Week is brought to you by Beef Jerky Outlet, Tanger Outlets, Washington, and Grove City Outlets. With over 100 varieties, there's one to satisfy the jerk in your life. Visit beefjerkyoutlets.com. And remember, don't be a jerk.
Mayor Young is, he may be a jerk for coming up with that idea, but he may not actually be a jerk. Maybe he's a nice guy, but that's a Jerk of the Week move. A guy who could have qualified if I had seen this earlier, but I just saw it in the last 20 minutes or so. Lawrence O'Donnell, who's a major league jerk, he has a show on MSNBC, and there was a lot of talk about Donald Trump's lack of military service during all this talk about D-Day, and it comes up every now and then that he was able to. They say that he dodged the draft because he claimed to have bone spurs. Now, that is not dodging the draft unless you didn't have bone spurs and you got the doctor to say that you had them, and it was not true that you had the medical condition that deferred you. And that happened, but you if you were deferred, you were deferred. That wasn't dodging. Dodging the draft was when you were classified 1A, which meant you had gone and had your physical, and you had been determined physically fit enough to serve in the military. You would then be classified 1A, and once that happened, you knew you were about to get drafted. I was a college student. I think it was 2F it was called then. I stayed in college. One of the reasons I stayed in college was to maintain my deferment. I didn't want to go to the military. I didn't want to go to Vietnam. Neither did 99% of the guys my age at that time. So, and I'm not discounting the possibility that Donald Trump, because of his dad's connections, was able to get a doctor to say that he had bone spurs when he really didn't have them. I don't know. But lots of people got out of the draft by medical reasons, and some of them had to be illegitimate. That had to happen. I don't know if there's any proof that Donald Trump did that. But if bone spurs were a legitimate reason for deferment, then that's not dodging the draft. It's just getting a deferment. The same as being in college and choosing to stay in college was not dodging the draft. It was staying in college and choosing to stay in college over being drafted and going into the military. And a lot of guys did it. And that's why they instituted the draft lottery in 1969. So, meanwhile, okay, so here's Lawrence O'Donnell last night on his show on MSNBC, and he's giving you the history of the Trump family and its aversion to military service. Just listen to this.
Donald Trump's grandfather, Friedrich, did not do his mandatory military service when he was living in Bavaria. When he tried to return to Bavaria after he obtained American citizenship, he was ordered to leave the Kingdom of Bavaria in 1905 or be deported. And unfortunately for history, he returned to the United States. Donald Trump's father was 36 years old when World War II started in the United States. The United States participation started. All men up to age 45 had to register for the draft during World War II in this country. Plenty of men of Donald Trump's father's age and Donald Trump's father's situation served in World War II. But no one in Donald Trump's family did that. That's just not what they do. When Donald Trump was asked about this yesterday, he knew no sane person could believe his Bone Spurs story, and so he simply stressed that he wasn't a fan of the war because we weren't fighting Hitler and Nazi Germany, an enemy that Donald Trump's father chose not to fight. And remember that Donald Trump's father was actually arrested at a Ku Klux Klan rally in New York City years before that. So we don't really know just how sympathetic to Hitler Donald Trump's father might have been.
No, we don't know, but let's just throw it out there because, make it a possibility that Donald Trump's father was a Hitler sympathizer. Just throw it out there, Lawrence. So here's the funny thing. I don't know if it's funny. It actually makes me want to throw up, but it is actually somewhat humorous. Lawrence O'Donnell, I think he's a former Democrat. I forget what his he was in politics somehow, and he would, if Bill Clinton ran for president tomorrow, he would vote for him. I guarantee you, he voted for Hillary Clinton. He voted for John Kerry, and he loves. I guarantee you, he loved Bill Clinton. I don't know where he stood when Clinton got in his problems with the impeachment and everything. But as a candidate, as a guy, he loved them. This is what Bill Clinton said about the military back in 1991. Remember, he ran for president in 1992. I've always been interested in and supportive of the military, Clinton said last December. That is something, in some ways I wish I'd been part of it. I wound up just going through the lottery, and it was just a pure fluke that I wasn't called. Now, I don't think at the time he said that people actually knew the story of Bill Clinton. But just compare what Bill Clinton did to what Donald Trump may or may not have done, which is had somebody say he had bone spurs and he really didn't. He may have actually had bone spurs, and bone spurs may have been something that kept you out of the military. Well, Bill Clinton, he was going to be drafted. He was 1A in the draft, and I guess it was 1969, 68, and he was going to be classified 1A, which meant he was going to be drafted. So he went to and he had a chance to become to take advantage of a Rhodes Scholarship at Oxford, and so he wrote a letter he made a deal with the guy who was head of the ROTC program, I believe with the University of Arkansas, and he said, look, you got to help me out here. I don't want to be drafted. I got a chance to go to Oxford, get a Rhodes Scholarship, and he actually had already worked in some government. He would already had an inkling that he wanted to be in politics. So he makes this deal with Colonel Holmes, and Colonel Holmes says, "Okay, I'll get you deferred. I'll get you a 1D classification, but when you come back from your trip to Oxford, your year over there, you join ROTC, and then you go from that into the military." Bill Clinton said, "Okay." Well, December 1st, 1969 was a very big day in my life, and the lives of I don't know, millions of guys from the age of 19 to 26 who were in that age group in 1969 on December 1st. That was the first draft lottery. There were going to be no more deferments because the deferments were kind of unfair. If you had money, you could afford to go to college, you didn't get drafted. If you didn't have money and you were out of school, then you got drafted. Or if you were stupid and flunked out or just fooled around and flunked out, you got drafted. So it was more fair to have the lottery. So they have the lottery, and if you millions of guys, and I know I have a lot of baby boomers listening. I hope I do. I think that's a big part of the audience here. But so I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But this is for people who don't know. And Erin didn't know. She's the producer. She's 29, and she didn't know. So there are people out there who don't know. But in 1969, on December 1st, national television, they had the drawing. They drew these pills out of a drum, and you got your number. And if it was 195 or lower, you were going to get drafted. Higher than that, you were going to get off. You were going to avoid it. So I got number 244, and so I wasn't going to be drafted. It was a good day for me. Bill Clinton also got a high number. I got an even higher number than I did on December 1st, 1969. And remember, he had made this promise to Colonel Holmes at I guess it was Arkansas. And this letter he sends to him was dated December 3rd, 1969. Now, the draft was held late, like at 9 o'clock that night on December 1st. So this is not even a full 2 days later. This letter is sent to Colonel Holmes from Bill Clinton. So he waited like a day and a half before he completely and totally blew off his promise. He says, one thing which made the bond we struck in good faith somewhat palatable to me was my high regard for you personally. This is a really long letter. I'm just going to read you part of it. In retrospect, it seems that the admiration might not have been mutual had you known a little more about me, about my political beliefs and activities. At least you might have thought me more fit for the draft than for ROTC. Let me try to explain. He goes on. I have written and spoken and marched against the war. He says, I went to Washington to work in the national headquarters of the moratorium, then to England to organize the Americans here for demonstrations October 19th and November 16th. And then he says, because of my opposition to the draft and the war, I am in great sympathy with those who are not willing to fight, kill, and maybe die for their country. This is remember, bone spurs. That is in this particular policy of a particular government, right or wrong. He's talking about the draft there. One of my roommates is a draft resistor who is possibly under indictment and may never be able to go home again. He is one of the bravest, best men I know. This is a guy who was absolutely dodging the draft. You can have whatever opinion you want about whether he should have because of your opinion about the Vietnam War, but that is dodging the draft. He wasn't going to go home, and he was going to stay outside the country. Some people went to Canada. After we had made our agreement, you had sent my 1D deferment to my draft board. That's in the letter right here. And then he says at the end of the letter, I am writing too in the hope that my telling this one story will help you to understand more clearly how so many fine people have come to find themselves still loving their country but loathing the military, to which you and other great men have devoted years, lifetimes of the best service you could have. That's what he says. And then he says, please say hello to Colonel Jones for me. And the last thing he says is, Merry Christmas. Now, this guy became the commander-in-chief of the military of the United States of America. He said he came to loathe the military. And he backed out of the deal that he said that he had agreed to, which said he would go to join ROTC, go through that program in grad school, and come out, and he would enter the service. He would be an officer. That's what happened when you went into ROTC. And then again, this is what he did. This is the letter he wrote on December 3rd, 1969, about 36 hours after the guy pulled the pill out of the drum in Washington on TV. He said, this is what he was telling people before he ran for president. I've always been interested in support of the military. It's something, some ways I wish I'd been part of it. I wound up just going through the lottery, and it was just a pure fluke that I wasn't called. Sure it was, Bill. Just a fluke that you didn't go into the Army. But hey, you know what? A lot of people did things that they regret, and a lot of people were opposed to the war, and maybe they were correct in being opposed to it. But could we please have the media stop referring to Donald Trump as a draft dodger unless there's proof that he lied about somehow or some doctor lied for him about the bone spurs. Joe Biden got out of the draft because of asthma. Asthma, okay? John Kerry, he enlisted, and he went over there, and the guys who served with him came back and saw to it that he wasn't elected president. They were the swift voters because of how he carried himself in Vietnam and what he did over there. And he came back and talked about people cutting off, the guys were cutting off people's ears and compare them to Genghis Khan. And he threw his medals over a fence into the White House grounds during a demonstration. And it turns out they weren't actually his medals, but they were medals. And that was John Kerry. So that's another guy who ran for president. John Kerry, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton. I don't know what Hillary did, but she was hanging out with Bill. I guarantee you she was marching in the protests, and she loathed the military. And I would bet anything that to this day she loathes the military and would have continued to loathe the military if she had been, God forbid, elected commander-in-chief of the military. So there you have it. It's about time somebody reintroduced the story of Bill Clinton. No need to thank me. We'll be right back. Okay, meat lovers, Beef Jerky Outlet presents over 100 delicious ways to get your snack on. There's nothing slim about these big flavors. This is high-end quality gourmet jerky in more flavors than you've ever thought possible. From wild game to pepper and spice to sweet and savory, there's something for everyone. Flavors like honey jalapeno, Cajun barbecue beef brisket, sweet bourbon traditional, Asian sesame, teriyaki, cherry maple, and peppercorn smoked beef, just to name a few. With Father's Day coming up, this is a total no-brainer for the guy in your life. Visit beefjerkyoutlet.com for fabulous gift ideas. Plus, check out their phenomenal selection of rubs, sauces, and marinades. Beef Jerky Outlet at Tanger Outlets in Washington and their brand new location at Grove City Outlets. Beef Jerky Outlet, proud sponsor of the Jerk of the Week, heard every Friday right here on the John Steigerwald Show. Check them out, beefjerkyoutlet.com.
Are you about to pay double for new windows, siding, or doors? If you haven't called Windows R Us, you just might. Many companies are overcharging area homes and businesses nearly double. With over 50 years in home remodeling, Windows R Us is more than a window company. They're the area's premier exterior replacement company for roofs, gutters, siding doors, and of course, windows. Windows R Us will never overcharge. You'll love their no-pressure approach, straightforward pricing, and the fastest turnaround in the business. Right now, get zero interest for 12 months and up to $20,000 on new vinyl, fiberglass, or wood windows. With options like triple pane glass and names like Pella. No hidden fees or surprises ever. Your no loophole lifetime warranty covers everything, including glass breakage, at no additional cost. Mention AM 1250 with your free estimate for an exclusive 10% off. Why pay double? Visit the area's premier exterior replacement company, WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com.
A couple of weeks ago, we had Rocky Blyer here to talk about his work with Miracle League in Moon Township, fields for athletes with special needs. Jim Leland, the Pirates' former manager, is also involved in that project. Jim, thanks for being here.
Great to be here, John. Great to talk to you.
Tell me about the Miracle League of Moon Township.
It's just a great thing for these kids, and it's a wonderful opportunity to people to participate. Some people are a little less fortunate than others, and I think it's just a great opportunity for people to volunteer and to help out and put a smile on somebody's face.
I've seen the field that they put out in Upper St. Clair. It's amazing.
Oh, it's unbelievable. The way they construct these things, they have the ramps and everything for the kids. It takes a little stress off the parents. I think it's what Pittsburgh's all about. It's just a great thing.
It'll serve Montour, West Allegheny, Moon, Sewickley, Weirton, Steubenville, Beaver County, and surrounding communities. Approximately 100 to 200 children will be eligible to participate, and it'll also serve adults with special needs. So it's a great cause. And if you'd like to see how you can help, maybe donate some money, check it out at miraclesinmoon.org. Miraclesinmoon.org. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I started a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 3366 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 3366. Enjoy.
The John Steigerwald Show.
Well, we have a couple of minutes left, and I'm reading this story I just came across a minute or two ago. It was written in 1992 in the Washington Post, and it's Bill Clinton lying through his teeth about what happened with him in the draft. He says in here, the rule was there was no graduate deferment, but you got to finish the term you were in. As it happened, I told him I expected to be called while I was over there in Oxford the first year, but never did. And then he says that he told them that he's just going to go back into the draft. He said, it just never occurred to me to make anything of it. Then I decided to go into the Army ROTC and go to law school. And the way I got back into the lottery was at the end of the summer, I just decided that was not a good thing to do. You know, I'd already had one good year at Oxford, blah, blah, blah. So I asked to be put back in the draft. The guy, this is an absolute total lie. And here's a line from the letter that he wrote to this Colonel Holmes. He says in this story that he told the Washington Post that he threw himself back into the draft. He said, the heck with it. I'll just take my chances to get drafted. He sends this letter on December 3rd, 1969. He says, First, I want to thank you not just for saving me from the draft, but for being so kind and decent to me last summer. He thanks the guy for saving him from the draft, and that's written in 1969. 23 years later, he tells the Washington Post that he was going into the draft. He knew he was going, and he just got that high number, and so he got lucky, and it was a fluke. Bill Clinton did all this and lied about it right up to becoming president of the United States. But Donald Trump had bone spurs. And O'Donnell would vote for Bill Clinton if he ran for president tomorrow and if it was for the 5th term. I'll see you tomorrow.
The John Steigerwald Show is a production of AM 1250 The Answer and Salem Media Group.
Here is your new Pella Lifestyle window when open. Here it is, closed. The new Pella